Welcome into Snow The Goalie Radio here on WBCB. We are live on YouTube, X, Facebook, everywhere you get your podcasts. We are live. We're having a good old time. Bundy is here. Anthony SanFilippo, as you can see, is not here with us at Chickies and Pete's in Roosevelt Boulevard in Northeast Philly. No, Anthony is down in the Sunshine State where, Bundy, I don't know if you know this or not, but it was winter meeting. So, woo, la-di-da, Mr. Man of Mystery is down there having himself a heck of a time. And did you go have a chat with Dave Dombrowski? Did you go get him a bagel? What's going on down there?
Give him a bagel. Yes, I've talked to Dave every day for the last 3 days.
How's Dave doing?
So, it's doing good. Spent time with Rob Thompson. You know, it's been busy. It's been busy down here for the last 3 days. But I will tell you, it's been the coldest hotel I've ever been in. I was completely and utterly unprepared. I came down here, I'm like, I'll wear some polo shirts or short sleeves. The media room and this entire hotel, the air conditioning is going so strong that people are wearing coats. That's how cold it is down here.
Bundy, so, that must be just such a devastating thing for him to go through. Should we have a moment of silence on the show?
We should. He's in Florida suffering right now.
All right, ladies and gents out there in radio land, those of you who are watching on YouTube, Facebook, and X, we're going to have a moment here, a moment of silence for Anthony SanFilippo's calves, which apparently have been put away. No shorts. He's not getting those gams tanned up. So a momentary silence here for Anthony SanFilippo. All right, thank you to everybody out there for interrupting us.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
That's what it's all about. All right, Bundy, how are you doing?
Doing good. How about you guys?
You know, it's just been, you and I made the drive in here, got a nice little rainy treat on the way in.
Yep.
But I'll tell you what. That's about the only negative we've really had to endure on the Flyers side of things so far this week, because following a disappointing loss to the Colorado Avalanche, who were playing in a very compact, a very condensed schedule, we were hoping that the Flyers were going to be able to get one more across the board, at least get a point out of that over the weekend. The Flyers did rebound this week. They rebounded in a big way against San Jose on Tuesday night. Anthony, I don't know how much you're getting to consume the hockey content down there. But, the big story of the game that Bundy and I really focused on last night on the Press Row Show was that Celebrini was one of Bundy's keys to the game, and Celebrini did not do jack diddly squat last night. I don't know how much you got to take in the game, but you surprised at the success they managed to have against San Jose, notably.
No. So first of all, I was not able to watch either game that I missed either Sunday night or Sunday afternoon, rather, because of my travel down here. And then last night, we were working until almost 10 o'clock. So I didn't see any of the game. But I read about it. I was able to kind of keep tabs on what's been going on. And I'll say, and Bundy, maybe you can back me up on this or tell me I'm wrong, but it seems like Rick Tocchet has changed which lines he's putting out against the other team's top line. And it seems like and this is a little bit of a surprise to me, but it seems like it's the Dvorak, Konechny, Zegras line that when he has the last change in these home games, he's putting them up against the top lines of the other team. He's put them up against Macklin, Celebrini, and they were the ones who did a good job in preventing Celebrini from getting anything off, anything going with the Sharks. And you wouldn't think with a line with Konechny and Zegras that they would be utilized in a defensive fashion, but maybe it's more that they're creating enough offensively that it's making the other team's top line have to work harder defensively, and therefore they're not generating as much going forward.
Yeah, that would probably be the reason for me, Anthony, because usually you can handle a line with defensive pairs. And I know that York was out. It wasn't that you didn't have your top pair together with Sanheim, but that would be a job for me. If I were coaching, I would have the defense take care of that top line and then let my forwards kind of play it out as it is. But I think because Dvorak is so good and so responsible defensively, he's playing so well right now, I think that kind of links and locks up that line a little bit as they're playing well together. So I don't think it was as big a deal having Konechny and Zegras out against that top line if you have a good center playing that way and a good set of defensemen defending that line.
Yeah, I mean that's like the thing that's my takeaway. Again, having not watched the games, I'm just going off of the reports and reading everybody. I've read all the folks who we often have on our show and see what they had to say. But I mean, also, it seems like Vladar had another really good game. The Sharks. I know there were I know it wasn't a ton of shots, but I mean, it seems like he stopped the ones that he had to stop. So you put that kind of in there as well. Look, I mean, that's the Sharks are not a great team, but they are certainly vastly improved.
Yes.
I think that's a good win for the Flyers. Yet again, coming off of a loss and not letting it, bother them and finding a way to win a game coming off of a loss. They're best team in hockey coming off of a loss this year. It's pretty impressive. I think it's like 9-1-2 or something, 9-1-3, whatever it is. So really, really good. You got to give. I think that goes into the coaching, right? And I think that you look at it, what Rick Tockett's done with this team, he deserves credit for that.
Bundy, what is the breakdown that you think you would give to that? The fact that they don't let the losses compound, that it has been pretty rare this season that they've lost 2 in a row. Is that coaching? Is that preparation? Is that the guys who are part of that leadership core keeping everybody's heads on? You lose a game, you kind of wash it away real fast. Like where do you land there?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of everything that has to go into it, but I do think the predominant reason is coaching, getting guys prepared, having them, understand what happened in the previous game and a loss, and then being able to capture points again. So I think a lot of it comes down to game planning and then having a proper set of things that you'll go into to have the next game, that whether it's offense or defense or whatever it is. And I think the coaching staff should be credited a lot for the reason after losing a game, they come out and play well the next one.
The funny thing last night is that the Flyers vastly outshot the Sharks, like in a big way through much of the game. It got a little bit closer in the third, but and just to give you context, the first shot of the game is the one that ultimately beat Vladar, and then he doesn't allow one the rest of the game. There was one that hit the crossbar early in that game, but
2 of them hit the crossbar.
But for the most part, Vladar was back to being himself.
Yes.
And you weren't seeing some of those juicy rebounds that I think he had an issue with.
Yep.
Who's that against? That was 2 games ago.
Game before Buffalo, wasn't it?
That might have been it. Where it just felt like he was kind of upside down a little bit. He was underwater.
They lost 5-1. I remember that.
He played kind of uncharacteristically mistake-filled hockey in net. So it was good to see him kind of bounce back. Now, one of the guys that you and I
were against Pittsburgh.
It was against Pittsburgh. That's right. One of the things that you and I talked about last night is Jamie Drysdale, and the fact that Drysdale last year, it felt like every other game, the comment section was filled with people saying, "What the hell happened? The guy that this Flyers team thought they were acquiring in the Cutter-Gauthier trade doesn't look like the guy that they expected him to." I wouldn't say that he's had as much of an impact offensively this year,
right,
as we were kind of told he would coming in, but his entire game, if you look at it from a macro view, I think he's actually looks like a better all-around defenseman now than he did, last year, even when he played like a nice little short stretch of good games.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. I agree with that sentiment too. I think he's played a more well-rounded game. I think he's defending better with his stick. I think his body positioning is a lot better. I think his rush opportunities against, he's done a really good job against him. He's really played well. I mean, and he's moved the puck pretty efficiently. Also, him and Andre play well together. And they're not big guys, so they're going to, you're not going to be able to win a lot of those big board battles against heavier set guys. But at the same time, if you get the puck out of the zone and you defend well, you don't have to.
Is that kind of the long-held internet back and forth between fans kind of playing out in front of us? The fact that it is 2 smaller stature defensemen, but because they're able to move the puck like they do, it kind of does offset maybe some of that need for that physicality.
I think so. If they can keep playing like that, I'm a big believer in size, especially on the blue line. But those guys, if they get back, make a quick D-to-D pass, or get help with the center and get the puck out of the zone, and they're not spending as much time defending. Yeah, there's going to be times in the game, every game, where you have to defend and you have to do a good job of it, and you have to battle your rear ends off when you're out there. But I think for the most part, they've really done a good job in transition, getting pucks out of the zone before the other team has a chance to attack and cycle.
Now, Ant, there's something that happened in a media scrum this week that I want to get to here in a second. But before we do, I think it's important that we remind people, those who are listening on the radio, those who are listening in a podcast feed after the fact, those who are maybe watching and wondering, are these guys at Chickies and Pete's? The answer is yes. Yes, we are. We are here every single Wednesday night during Flyer season. We are at a rotating list of Chickies and Pete's every single Wednesday night. If you're looking for a place to go to watch a game, watch a Flyers game, watch whatever game your heart desires, you should make your way out to Chickies and Pete's. There are 17 different locations. We have been to a bunch. We've been out to Warrington. We were here in Northeast Philly on Roosevelt Boulevard. We've been down to the South Philly location. Malvern, Bet Parks, the Parks Casino. We were out there in Ben Salem. I think we're going to be down in Bordentown at some point. We're going to Trenton. We're going all over the place. You can find us. You can find that list of where we're going to be throughout the year. But every single Wednesday night, except 2 days before Christmas, I think we're doing a Tuesday instead of a Wednesday. And I think around New Year's, I think we're also doing a Tuesday. We'll put that out on social media as well. But listen, if you make your way to Chickies and Pete's, there are certain things that you absolutely have to try on the menu, right? You can go get some white wine mussels. You can go get the red mussels, get a little bit of that red sauce, a little bit of that gravy, as Ant likes to call it, which we're not going to debate about right now. But you can come out and get some mussels. Maybe you want to be like Bundy. Get the Bundy, the 12 cold shrimp.
Yep.
A bowl of clam chowder.
Yeah, and a pizza.
Maybe you could do that. Maybe you want to do what I do. You rotate between the crab cake sandwich and the grilled chicken sandwich. Fantastic tonight. The crab fries, you have to get the crab fries. Nice little cheese sauce. Makes everybody happy. You bring the family out, you get some cheese sauce. Everybody's thrilled. And you can also decide to go the Anthony SanFilippo route. And tell the people what you usually get.
Well, I've changed. I started off getting the barbecue burger, but then I've changed it up to go to the crab cake sandwich. I think that the crab cake sandwich there is top notch, and that tends to be my regular go-to at Chickies and Pete's.
Anthony follows my lead. Shocker. Anyway, come on out, Chickies and Pete's, every single Wednesday night. Come out, talk some puck with us here at Snow the Goalie. All right, now, Anthony, there was a thing that happened this week, and it drove me to a point of madness, as I'm sure you can imagine that it did. And I talked to Jackie Spiegel about it last night on pregame. Rick Tocchet went and met with the media earlier this week, or maybe it was the end of last week, and he said something to the effect of, and you sent me this, about the fourth line and about why the fourth line got a shift a couple games ago. And he talked about how the team was exhausted and that he saw guys, the tongue sticking out on the bench, and that ultimately he made a call that he thought was smart for the team, which was to get those guys a shift. Now, Jackie pointed out last night it was like 10 minutes of actual time between the last shift that fourth line took and then when they finally came back into the game late in the third. He noted that he doesn't read anything and he doesn't listen to podcasts and he's not aware of anything that's said and that he would be in deeper trouble, I guess. He'd lose his mind if he did. Do you believe that Rick Tocchet does not read anything or listen to anything or has no idea what is being said about him or his team?
I will say this, Russ. I think that every coach and every player in every sport knows what's being said about them at all times. Whether they're actually reading every story or they're listening to every podcast, that's probably not what they're doing. But I guarantee you that somebody is, and somebody is sending it to them, and then therefore they will listen to the portion that people tell them about. So yes, I do think that Rick Tocchet is aware of what's said by people or written by people. And the portions that he needs to listen to or read, he eventually does.
Bundy, what do you think?
I don't know. I tend to agree with Anthony because of the world we live in society. The information just gets passed around so fast.
Yeah.
I myself would probably avoid a lot of this stuff, but I know people would send it to me, which is a really fair point by Anthony. But I think Rick Tocchet probably has a pretty good idea what's being said about him and his team.
I mean, media consumption is different now than it was a decade ago, even 5 years ago. I mean, the likelihood of somebody getting a clip like a 60-second short, even from this show or from a clip from this show of like 5 minutes or anybody else's show, and that getting sent via text to Rick Tocchet, oh, check out what these jamokes were saying. Like the likelihood of that is significantly higher than it would have been like, 10 years ago when somebody says, hey, Rick, did you happen to pick up the latest edition of the Philadelphia Inquirer? Go to page 52. Like that kind of thing is different now.
Right.
So I would imagine that he's aware. There's also another piece of this, Ant. Tocchet was on TV. He was working for TNT. He was on that panel with Biz. You have to imagine that what is being said about his team is probably coming back to him in a group chat as well. You got to imagine that Tocchet is probably having a conversation every once in a while with at least one of the people on that panel and probably getting a feel for where the national perspective is on his team. Would you not?
Yes. And this is why I believe, and I'm glad you mentioned Biz, because I'm going to make a comparison here. And this is something I could tie this into what I'm doing down here at the winter meetings. We had breakfast with Rob Thompson this morning, and we're sitting there, and he was, for a couple minutes we were talking about hockey, and he said, I heard on Spittin' Chicklets, and I said, oh, you listen to Spittin' Chicklets, and he stopped me for a second. He says, just so you know, it's the only podcast I listen to. It's the only one. I don't listen to any other podcast. So we had a good laugh about it, right? Because the reality of it is that these guys do hear these things. They hear everything that's said about them or about their teams. So yeah, like I stand by what I said at the beginning. Do I think that they're listening word for word the entire hour of this show, or if they're listening to PHLY Flyers, are they listening to that? Every minute of that every day? Are they listening to everything that Mertitas does? No, maybe not to that extent, like that they're listening to every minute. But if there's something that's said that is, I guarantee you, when we had Frank Saravalli on from that very location where you're at a couple weeks ago, that clip made its way through the entire locker room, through every coach, every executive on that team, because just of how inflammatory it was in a sense, right? And so yes, I do think that he's intimately aware of what's being said.
I think it's probably
I agree.
Yeah. Now the biz part of it is also interesting because, Ant, there are people that are trying to Sherlock Holmes their way into figuring out where biz went in the last day or so, or 2 days ago. Kind of put out this idea that, whether it's around a Quinn Hughes trade or a trade just in general, Matvei Mishkov's name came up. And biz effectively said, listen, I think the Flyers should trade Michkov if there's a good enough player available.
Yeah.
He's never going to be a superstar. He can't skate. Now, that is a sentiment that I've certainly heard. I assume you guys have as well. I mean, there are people who are around this team and on a national level who are also of the opinion Matvei Mishkov's skating or lack thereof, the speed, lack thereof, could ultimately hold him back from being a superstar franchise cornerstone kind of guy. When you have Biz saying something like that, and there were people that were trying to tie that together. Is this Tocchet feeding information to his old panel mate on TNT? What are your thoughts there?
I think that if the Flyers, well, let me put it this way. I think the Flyers recognize that they cannot trade Matvei Mishkov right now. They just can't. Like, I don't care that you're getting Quinn Hughes, right? If you get Quinn Hughes, you can't, unless you knew that Quinn Hughes was signing a 8-year extension, right? And he's going to be here forever, which you can't really technically know.
Correct.
You can't trade a guy who you thought was going to be a cornerstone of your team after one season and 30 games or 27 games, whatever the heck it is, right? Like, you just can't. Like, that would be suicidal by Danny Briere in a lot of ways. Now, because again, Quinn Hughes may only want to play the rest of this year and next year and then hit free agency. He may want to see what he's worth in the free agent market, right? Like, he may not want it. So, like, I can't imagine that if you're the Flyers, you're willing to do that. The Flyers balked at them talking about Porter Martone. The Flyers balked at them talking about Tyson Forster. How do you not balk at them talking about Matvei Mishkov, even if you think Mishkov's less than what you originally thought he was? Like, I can't see. And plus, the city would burn to the ground, in all honesty. Flyers fans would go absolutely bonkers. So, no, I can't see it happening right now. 2 years from now, if Mishkov's still doing this and he's a free agent or whatever, like, some another players like then yeah, maybe you can have that conversation then. If it's somebody else other than Quinn Hughes who'll be a free agent at that point. But no, I don't know. I'd be stunned. I'd be flat out stunned. They would be keeping that so secret and under wraps that nobody knows about it. And if Tocchet fed that to Biz, whatever, but I don't know. I can't believe that he did.
I think to get a number one defenseman like Quinn Hughes, you have to give up something. They're going to want players back. They're not just going to want picks and prospects.
Yeah.
And if that's the asking price, you got to sift through it and you got to consider it. I don't know that it is. I don't know that it is. You hear Tocchet yesterday? One of the interesting, I was reading Twitter after the game last night, and it's amazing how they kind of make a zip line right to Mishkov with everything Tocchet said. He said before the game that Celebrity came into camp in great shape.
Yeah.
And that was taken by a lot of the Flyers fans as
That's
being
a direct shot at Matvei
a
Michkov.
shot at Mishkov. Well, Tocchet's talking about Celebrini because he's the best player on the other team, and he's also an Olympic candidate.
Yeah.
And Tocchet's one of the coaches on that team, so he has a right to be able to talk to him about it that way. But,
Sure.
But, I mean, did I think there was a dig at Mishkov through Tocchet? Not really.
I didn't take it.
I didn't take it like
No.
that at all, no.
I think people are just looking. We talked about this like a week or two ago. There's a very vocal contingent on social media that hate Tocchet. They're like, oh, Tocchet's buddies with Keith Jones. That's why he got the job. He's a former Flyer. And like, listen, could there be truth to it? Maybe. I don't know. I wasn't in the room. What I can tell you, though, is that like the idea, and Ant said this a few weeks ago, the idea of moving on from a head coach right now is absolutely insane. He's gotten more out of this team than I think a lot of people expected. Now, I want to go back to the price of Quinn Hughes, though. So while Ant has been out of town, I've decided to take the role of Anthony SanFilippo and actually go talk to people and have conversations. So I did a little bit digging around because I know that sometimes I fan the flames. I sometimes take the online discourse and I turn it into a thing, and then you guys get frustrated with me because how dare I? So I did a little bit of digging, and I did a little bit of asking.
How did that feel? How did that feel when you did that? Did a little bit of the digging and did a little bit of the behind the scenes conversations.
It was totally fine, but it's not my role on this show. You're Mr. Go have the conversations.
I get it, but I just want to know how it felt for you. How it felt for you to wear the other shoes.
I just happen to be, charming and delightful and disarming because I'm not a very tall person. It works out pretty well. So I did a little bit of asking around. And so I'm kind of combining a little bit of what was told and then looking at historical precedent because a lot of people like to go back to the Jack Eichel trade, which I don't think is a fair one, right? When Eichel was traded, first of all, there's your potential 1C who lived up to all the hype and what Buffalo wanted him to be. He did that ultimately with Vegas. There are a few underlying things, though. Jack Eichel was coming off of a serious injury. He was at odds with the organization about the disc replacement surgery in his neck. These things are not one for one. But if we take historical precedent and some of the things that I asked around about and I was told, here's what I think Quinn Hughes' value right now is, okay? I don't think the Flyers are even entertaining the idea of Michkov. I actually threw that out to somebody. Well, if it's closer to a 1-for-1, if it's not, a ton of assets, what do you do? And I got quite the look. So I was told that, you're probably looking at a roster player of the ilk of, let's say, a Tyson Forster. It could be
it's going to take more than that.
It's going to take a roster player. So it's a Forster or maybe a Cam York. It's going to take at least one of your premier prospects, not including Martone. Martone is like an absolute must right now if you're Vancouver. That's the guy that I think any team is going to covet if you're trying to acquire a number one defenseman, a number one center. So you're probably looking at Martone, one of a Forster, a Tippett, or a Cam York. You're probably looking at another one of your top prospects, whether that's a center like Lutsenko. Could that be a guy like a Jack Nesbitt? Then you're looking at draft capital. Are you looking at 1 first-round pick? Are you looking at 2 firsts? Are you looking at a first and 2 seconds? So you start to add that up. And again, historical precedent and this little bit of info. You're looking at 5 or maybe 6 assets to try to go out and get that number one defenseman. And you are not allowed per the CBA to negotiate that next contract until I think, is it January next year? And it's 1 year
July
out
1st,
from,
isn't it?
1 year
July
out.
1st. So July, you can do it in July 1st, yeah.
So you're making a very, very incredibly risky move. Just say you wanted to meet that hypothetical asking price. You're dealing a player off your roster, probably your top prospect in Porter Martone, your second best or most highly touted prospect in a Lutsenko or a Nesbitt, and multiple draft picks. That's an insane price, even for a number one defenseman. It's insane.
My other side of that, though, is you're coming to Philadelphia. There's less travel. It's a better place to play than Vancouver. You're on a flight all day long going to Vancouver. So I'm also saying that Philadelphia is the attractive part of this as well.
Sure, for Hughes. For Hughes,
yeah.
It certainly could. I'm
betting. I'm thinking to myself, I'm betting on the fact he's going to re-sign here, unless he absolutely has to play with his brothers.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. But, I mean, it'd be a lot better being an hour 15 minutes away from his brothers than a 6-hour flight.
I have yet to have a conversation with anybody locally or from more of a national perspective or from another team that has said at this point anything other than everyone believes Quinn Hughes is ultimately going to want to land back on the East Coast or within a train ride, maybe a short plane ride. East Coast is where he's going to want to land.
I'll give you one other possibility, Russell.
Oh, I love possibilities.
I would not be surprised if given his choices, if Quinn Hughes would sit there and go, You know what? South Beach and tax-free contract would be a pretty nice place to be.
Yeah, you
Well,
can do that
remember,
in Texas too.
Remember, though, Gary Bettman says that tax-free doesn't have any actual impact on a
every
player
talks
wanting
about
to go play in
Russ,
Florida or Vegas
there
or
are-
Dallas.
There are players here in baseball who are talking about situations with the tax money on their contracts. Like some guys I don't want to say who, but I was talking to somebody who said, yeah, he doesn't want to go to a team in California because of how high the taxes are there. Like, this is a thing in all sports. It's a major thing. So for Gary Bettman to close his eyes to it, he's a fool. He's a fool to close his eyes to it.
He's a fool for a lot of
players. This matters. And I look at Quinn Hughes and I say, hey, Quinn Hughes wouldn't surprise me if he goes to a really good team, whether it's Tampa or Florida, whatever the case might be, where they are in 2 years. Yeah, I'll sign the contract there and don't have to pay taxes on my salary. And, oh, by the way, there's palm trees every day. It's a beautiful place to be, isn't it?
I think he's just being affected by the palm trees that were in his backdrop. We can't see them now anymore, Bundy, but I think he's breathing that Florida air.
Yeah.
We know that Florida air, it takes over. It's almost like it's infected his brain. He doesn't even miss the evergreen trees outside. He doesn't miss rainy Philadelphia area. He's down there enjoying. Can you put your Tootsie Toes in the sand yet? Have you been sitting out by the pool? No?
No. I've been nonstop down here, man.
You're in Orlando, Ant?
Yeah. I mean, we're actually on Disney property. The hotel where this meeting is on Disney property. But I've barely been outside.
You're going to the Magic
I
Kingdom?
get here 8 o'clock. Get here 8 o'clock in the morning and don't get back to the hotel till 10 o'clock at night. So it's barely been outside.
Do they still do the Disney Boulevard like for the adults at night? Is that still a thing? You're gonna go out and find like a Mickey Mouse beverage to consume tonight? Is that what you're gonna do?
Dry Kingdom, Russ.
No, there's not.
Yeah, you can't drink there.
Epcot, you can.
Well, Epcot, you can at Disney.
No, I'm saying there used to at least be a thing like a nightlife thing in the for all the Disney adults.
Yeah, the downtown Disney thing. It's not there
that
anymore.
Thing. That's not there anymore. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything about Disney adults or how unhinged I think a lot of them are. Okay, so I think we have an idea of where we're at least in terms of the Quinn Hughes of it all. I think now is probably the best time possible, though. We're about halfway through the show. And I will encourage people, if you're listening out there, if you're watching, you're like, hey, I would like to throw down with these guys about the actual cost to acquire a Quinn Hughes or how you think the Flyers are doing. You can give us a call. The phone number is on the bottom of the screen, 215-949-3232. That's 215-949-3232. Give us a call and tell us why Tanner McKinnon. I'm just kidding. God help us. Let's actually get to a part of the show that people are used to being a little bit earlier, but we're going to do it here midway through, and that is the Payroll Services Player of the Week. Guys, we have this every single week. We go back and forth. We try to identify, and we all look at the game a little bit differently, but we try to identify who is the Player of the Week. Of course, this segment brought to you by Payroll Service Solutions. Call them today at 1-866-PAY-EASY. That's 1-866-PAY-EASY. And I'm going to go to you first.
Great.
You have a limited scope here on what you're able to say, as you did not consume the last two games. But we are going to ask you, nevertheless, who is your Player of the Week?
Yeah, I mean, again, I am a bit limited, having not really got a chance to watch those last couple games. But I look at some of the stats, and I'm going to use the most recent game. This will be recency bias, and I think that Christian Dvorak, the way he played in that game against the Sharks, he scores a goal. He's killing penalties. He's on the power play. He went 14 for 17 in the faceoff circle. That's pretty darn good. Like, I look at that and I say, ever since they put them together on that line with Zegras and Konecny, that line has really played well. I think it's 4 games now that they've been together. I don't know. I think that they played against McKinnon. They did a nice job against the McKinnon line on Sunday. I look at it and say, Christian Dvorak, he's on pace right now for 53 points or 54 points would be a career high. His career high previously was 38. I look at that guy and I say, he's been playing some pretty darn good hockey and maybe deserves some credit now. And so I'm going to name him my Payroll Service Solutions Player of the Week.
Wow. Look at you. Bundy.
I'm not going too far off the script from where Dvorak's at, but I'm actually going to go with Konechny this week. He's had 3 goals in his last 3 games and 2 assists, 5 points in his last 3 games. I know he had an empty netter last night, but he played pretty good hockey game. Flyers need some offense with some of the guys out right now, and Konechny has provided that. So he's my player of the week.
That empty netter was number 500 or his 500th career point, right? Is that correct?
It was.
Yeah,
it was. So now I'm forced to break the tie or send us into a place of chaos. And I could, because Superfan Eric's over there. I could always bring him over for his player of the week. But believe it or not, I am going to agree with the guy sitting next to me. Not because he's, a good-looking dude, not because he's, a tough guy and twice my size. But I am going to agree with Bundy that I think Travis Konechny has done enough here in the past week to warrant some serious consideration here. Now, could some call him an empty net merchant this season? Some might. I would not. Would I say such a thing? Of course not. But he has started to find a consistent stride. And the nice part about it is it sort of has coincided with them needing Travis Konechny to step up with the absence of Tyson Forster.
Yeah.
And so for that, I agree with Bundy. And that means that this week, despite Anthony's protests, this week's Payroll Service Solutions player of the week is none other than Travis Konechny. Congratulations on 500 points, but we do know that it is a much bigger honor to be named the Payroll Solutions player of the week. Again, this segment brought to you by Payroll Service Solutions. Call them today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for the smart choice in payroll services. Payroll Service Solutions, catering to the small and medium-sized business to handle all of your payroll needs. Call them once again, 1-866-PAY-EASY. All right, gents, we have been talking in limited amounts here over the last week or so about the Olympics. Now, Bundy, for those who might have missed it on the press row, for those who might have missed it in the podcast feed, which we, by the way, last couple of press row shows, we've done pregame, intermissions, and postgame all in the podcast feed. Got some feedback from people. They wanted that. We're hearing, again, 3 feet shorter than an NHL rink.
Yeah.
And that apparently the plan is going to be to have the offensive zones the same size, but they're going to limit and take that space away in the neutral zone. Bundy, last night I asked you about just the health aspect of this, because it seems like the undercurrent right now among executives in the league is a fear for player safety at these Olympics on a smaller rink. Can you unpack for people at home, what about a smaller rink increases the likelihood of injury versus an NHL rink, or even at a larger scale, the international ice?
Well, simply put, if there's less room on the ice, that means there's more opportunity for guys to collide and to run into each other. They're taking away space in the neutral zone. But to me, it's a huge deal. I mean, the Olympic ice traditionally was always bigger than the NHL rink, and that was what was different about Olympic hockey. To have screwed this up the way the Olympic Committee has is absolutely unbelievable. They had all this time to try to get it right, and they couldn't even get a standard NHL-size rink. People would have been like, okay, well, there's no Olympic-size rink. We can live with the standard NHL rink because guys are playing from it. But to have a rink that's 3 feet shorter is an absolute disgrace. It's absolutely one of the worst things I've ever seen in sports.
Do you think the IOC would have been a lot happier if no one had ever found out?
Sure, they wouldn't have said a word.
The players would have been able to tell them.
100%. Yeah, 100% they would have known for sure. But to not even have the rink done and then to have it shorter than it was, like, who planned this?
Yeah.
Who was on the organizing committee of planning this? It's an epic failure. Epic.
Anthony, have you heard anything at all about anything from a league-wide perspective, or from people who might have a little bit better information about what happened, and 2, what's being done to try to remedy the situation?
Well, I don't think that I have anything that can tell you about what happened. Look, that ship has sailed, man. You got to work with what you got at this point. But what I can say is I know that the league has sent their people over there to try and rectify the situation. They're trying to get it right. There is Bill Daly expressed some optimism that it will be okay for the players to play eventually over there. But it's going to be right up. It's going to be right under the gun. I mean, this is they got to hope that everything clicks and everything works, and the timeline is what it is, and that they can get it done in that time frame. they're going to test the ice. They're going to make sure that that the ice is safe. Like the other report that we had heard back when I was in Philly was that they weren't planning on keeping the rink as a hockey rink after the fact. That they were going to, I'm still talking here, so it's okay. Don't worry about it. That they were going to keep.
I'm trying. There's a reason. Come up here while you're talking. Look at that camera. Stand in front of the camera for a sec. Superfan Eric is here. Keep going. A little bit more to your left. There you go, Eric. All right. Now you're free to go. Superfan Eric's here with the Darth Vader shirt on, which you can find at shop.snowthegolly.com. He's heading out, so we have to get that. All right, continue, Eric. Sorry. We just had to do a shameless.
No, so like they have to be careful, what the rink looks like. I mean, or plays like, because if it is just a temporary rink and they are the cooling system that's underneath the ice, it has to be good, right? Like, I mean, you can't have soft ice, right, Bundy? I mean, that's the most dangerous thing for the players. So I think that's why the NHL folks are going over there to just be like, hey, listen, we're taking over now. You guys screwed this up. We'll go in there. We'll fix it. I think that the league recognizes they need to have their players be part of it. They may be saying, well, if it's not good, we'll pull our guys. And that they have to say that. But I think that ideally that they want to go over there and make it work. And so the NHL will make it happen.
Yeah. It's weird though, Anthony. The whole preparation of it to allow it to get to this point though was ridiculous. It's absolutely embarrassing and shameful, to be honest with you. It really is.
There's no reason for it to have gotten to this point. And that's what's, I think, the most shameful about it is, we've said this a few times, but like by the time players take the ice there, it'll be just shy of 7 years from when the city was awarded the Winter Olympics.
Yeah.
I get that, Anthony, in the land of our people in Italy, like hockey's not as much of a priority. I get it. But like, you got to get the place built. The other thing that was really hilarious that came out last week is that apparently when they were building the arena, the roof was too low and they had to start over and build the roof higher. I don't know how you do that incorrectly. I don't know what about the roof wasn't high enough, but like, what are we doing? Are there no good architects? Wasn't there a time, Anthony? Wasn't the motherland of at least part of our respective families, wasn't it a great nation at one point? Wasn't there a time when Italy boasted its architects and its artists? Now what? What do we have left? What happened, Anthony? Do you know a guy?
It is disappointing. I got a guy. I got a guy who fix it.
Meatballs, marinara, they're all going to go over there. They're going to go fix it. Here's a question. What's more likely to happen? The NHL pulls their players because it's an unsafe surface, or the NHL makes such a fuss about it that the IOC is essentially forced to look for an alternate location.
That would be B for me.
Whether it's in Turin, Torino, or it's in Austria, Switzerland.
You go to Davos, Switzerland, and play the whole tournament right there.
Like, do you think that's what's more likely, that they would relocate?
It's going to be tough to do.
Yeah.
People have like their hotels booked and stuff like that already, especially.
And building availability too. Remember, those buildings all probably have events scheduled in them as well. Like, I mean, that it's a real cluster. I mean, that's an issue as well. So, hey, I'm getting it back to the Flyers for a second. I wanted to ask Bundy about a guy who made his NHL debut. Did you get a chance to watch Ty Murchison?
I did.
And what did you think of him last night?
Thought he played really well. Very, very played within himself. Played a very solid, strong game. I again last night I said I didn't really notice anybody on defense. Now, as I always say, that means it's probably been a good night for the defenseman. But he looks like a Nick Seeler that maybe can move the puck a little bit better. Is going down the road a little bit, but brings that physical element, that little bit of tough energy into the lineup. I really liked it. I'm looking forward to seeing more of him.
You got Warren.
I'm glad
over on YouTube saying Murchison fan club here. Sounds like the team likes him.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, Bundy, because I was going to say to you that I think that he could ultimately be a guy that replaces Nick Seeler.
Yeah.
I know Nick Seeler just played his 400th game on Sunday and whatever, and he's still a regular contributor on that third pair and does a nice job there. But I looked at Murchison and I talked to a couple people that's the role that they think that he could play at the NHL level, maybe beyond just being a fill-in guy here for a couple games.
Yeah,
it's not bad.
Is he? It looks like right now, though, is he just called up for a couple games, Anthony, in the process? You think, or is this something?
Yeah, it depends on Cam York, right? I mean,
Right.
you know what the deal is there. I mean, I've been so ensconced with baseball down here, I haven't had a chance to check in on York's status, so I can't give an update there. But yeah, like I think that once York comes back, Murchison will go back down. Much in a way, if you remember last season, they did something similar with Helge Grans.
Yeah.
Where he came up for a brief stint and then went back down. The difference is that I think Murchison is a guy that's got a little bit more to his game. And I think that I think that they like what they see there. And I think that he's a guy that could fit pretty well.
Yeah.
Another guy who got the call up was Carl Grunstrom, who had a goal last night. I don't necessarily Fourth line goal. I mean, in this economy, can you imagine? So Carl Grunstrom had a nice little moment there. I can't imagine that he's much of a long stint ahead of him here at the NHL level.
Danny feels he's an NHL player. Like he says he's an NHL player. So whether or not they can find a role to keep him here, I don't know. But they are high on him and higher than maybe where he's playing already in the minors. I think he's better than that.
Which is interesting because if they think that he's a potential fourth line guy, and now you have Nikita Grabenkin playing a little higher up in the lineup, not looking out of place. We talked about that last night. He's not like an impact guy right now, but he certainly doesn't look like he doesn't belong. So that's always a positive. Does that maybe spell or signal that maybe Rick Tocchet is thinking about, all right, Hathaway hasn't been very productive. He's a penalty killer, but that's about it. Nick Delorier is Nick Delorier. He's a limited player. Do you think that they maybe now say, all right, it probably is worth giving Grunstrom a little bit of a look here.
Yeah.
And maybe making him part of that rotation on the fourth line.
Yeah, I think so. I think they feel pretty high about him. And like I said, they feel he's an NHL player. So if that's the case, they're going to do what they can to try to keep him at the NHL level. He was a big contributor last night. He did some good things out there. Yeah, I mean, he made that fourth line a better line last night.
One of the things, Ant, that people, I guess, initially got upset because, imagine this, social media got upset about something, is when Forster got hurt, Flyers fans on the whole started complaining and getting worked up about the fact that the first call-up was an Alex bump and that the organization seems pretty high on how Denver Barkey has started his season, and he wasn't the call-up. Can you give people an idea of why the Flyers didn't choose to go to one of those two guys? I mean, I think we have an idea, but let the people know.
Well, I mean, they didn't necessarily think that either guy was quite ready for the NHL yet. I know that this past weekend, the Phantoms had 3-3, and they wanted to see these guys play all three of those games and kind of reassess after that. So I think it'll be interesting to see. I think there's a chance that you might see bump at some point. But at the same time, it's a matter of a player needs to let you know in the minors when he's ready to come up to the NHL. And the one thing I will say is I think that this, for whatever you want to say about the Flyers, whether you think that they should do this or should do that or whatever, I think that since the Briere and Jonesy have kind of taken things over, I think that they're more honest about their self-assessments. And I think that when they look at young players, they might be excited about them, but they don't want to rush them. And I think that they feel that rushing a guy could only be detrimental to their development. They've put a lot more of an investment into developing players than that maybe the previous regime did. And I think that when you're able to do that self-assessment and look at those players and say, we think that they're going to be a player in the NHL at some point this year. I'll give a perfect example. Is a guy like Emile Andre, right? Like Emile Andre, they knew all along that this guy was an NHL caliber defenseman, but he wasn't quite playing the way that they needed him to play. And they felt that sending him back down was the right thing to do to kind of get him over that last hurdle. And Andre admitted he was very upset about it. And he said, I'm going to prove them wrong. And in a sense, that them sending him down got him focused to play the way that they wanted him to play. And since he's come back up, he's been very good. That's not a situation where you sit there and go, oh, see, the team should have had him up sooner because look at how good of a player he is. That's more of they know their own player well enough to say he needs that last little push, that last little bit to get to where he is, that he's no longer an up and down guy, that he's here at the NHL and here to stay. And I think that they're trying to do that same thing with a lot of their players. And I think that that's how they look at it. So you got to give them credit for that. And I think that that's how they look at Alex Bump more so than Barkey. I think Barkey's still a little bit away, but I think Alex Bump, they need him to be a little bit better, and they want him to want it and prove it. And then once he does, he doesn't go back down.
Now, Anthony, I didn't tell you that we were going to do this. I'm throwing something at you at the last second, but I know you're going to rise to the occasion. I know that you will.
Okay.
Despite the fact that you're in Florida and despite the fact that you are not currently getting inundated with Flyers fan takes, I know that you're monitoring social media. And we meant to do this a week ago. We meant to do this 2 weeks ago. And so we are going to do it now. We talked about Talk It a little bit ago.
I don't have anything prepared.
Yes, you do. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new segment on the program, simply called
This is a Snow the Goalie showdown. Anthony SanFilippo versus Flyers Twitter. Get ready. Fight.
Anthony SanFilippo versus Flyers Twitter. Ant's beef of the week. Anthony, there has to be something out there. There has to be a take out there that has you riled up this week.
No, because I told you I've not been focused on it. I've really not been. You could have waited till next week, and we could have debuted that, and I would have come out guns a-blazing next week, because Flyers Twitter's always got something that upsets me, right? But I haven't spent the time. I've been focused on what I've been, my job down here, unfortunately. And look, I got to give Amadeo a ton of credit for making that video. It's funny, it's hysterical, and I can't wait to use it on a regular basis. But I'm not going to just arbitrarily make something up that I'm angry with Flyers Twitter when I haven't been on Flyers Twitter fighting with people.
He seems worked up. Do you see that, Bundy?
He is.
He is worked up.
But he's being honest about it.
So today, Flyers Twitter is yours truly. Anthony, next week, prepare yourself.
I will be ready next week.
We said on the Press Row show yesterday, Ant was probably chasing after Dave Dombrowski or Kyle Schwarber in the banana hammock.
Yeah.
Bundy, do you think Ant has a gi? Do you think he's got like the karate gi?
Yes, I do.
Do you think he's got a black belt? Do you think he goes red belt, yellow belt? Does he tear the sleeves off like Ryu in Street Fighter?
No.
Okay.
Hey Russ, since you did that to me, can we? I'll throw one back at you. Can you pull up the photo I sent over to you the other night?
Let me see if I can pull it up on my computer. I don't actually know.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
I don't. Hold on.
The one with the sunglasses.
Hold on. Let me see if I can find it.
That you thought was horrifying.
A horrifying one with sunglasses. Hold on. It's not on the computer. I can find it and send it to myself. Oh, I do see it. Yeah, I got it.
God, does that ever look like Russ? That's unbelievable.
Okay, yeah, I got it.
Yes, I want to pull this up because this is unbelievable.
All right, hold on. This
is amazing.
This makes for good. This makes for good radio. This makes for good.
While you're pulling it up, I will explain. So I'm sitting at home and I'm watching my television, and this photo it was actually a video, but I snapped the picture of on my TV of this person on television, and I stared at it for several minutes, and then I showed it to my wife. I said, Maria, who is this? And she goes, well, that's Russ. Why is he wearing those sunglasses? I said, okay. So then I sent it to my kids. I said, you guys know who this is? They all said, yeah, that's Russ. It's like, all right. And then I put it into our Snow the Goalie group chat. And I said, guys, check out this picture. Who is this?
Yeah,
I mean, it looks just like you. It's unbelievable.
It's not Russ. It's not Russ.
Yeah,
that is, and we've talked about this before.
That's about as close as we can get to. Let me quaff the hair over here a little bit.
Well, you shaved, so by shaving it a little bit,
go a little Bargatze. I don't have sunglasses, but sunglasses.
Yeah,
okay.
But
yeah, I mean
it's unbelievable. So that is Nate Bargatze. Now we've talked about this in the past that you two are doppelgangers, but that is the closest I've ever seen him to look like you. That is Nate Bargatze, and it looks just like you. It's unbelievable.
It makes me uncomfortable, really.
It's just crazy how much it looks just like you.
I actually thought about having a conversation with my dad. So Nate Bargatze's older than I am, So there's part of me that goes, all right, well, this would have been before my parents met. Did my dad make a trip to wherever the heck Bargatze's family from? Are we going to do a
Tennessee.
22andMe and Bargatze and I are going to find out that we're actually related? That would cause all kinds of problems in my family right now. I could tell you right now. I don't think that would go over particularly well, but it is kind of hard to debate that there's a resemblance. And what's crazy is that the Flyers have yet to put me on the lookalike thing when they do it at the game, like every fourth or fifth game when they do the lookalike in the crowd. Still haven't done it.
We'll have to talk to the marketing people. Maybe they can get you up there.
Yeah. I think there's one other topic that we had to get to today because people they've been asking about it in the comments, and obviously tomorrow the Flyers play the Vegas Golden Knights, which means that the Flyers are going to be taking on the team of their former netminder Carter Hart. Now Carter Hart has played back-to-back games. He played on Tuesday, and so so far, unless something has come out in the last 20 minutes, it seems like Hart is not going to play tomorrow against the Flyers. He would theoretically be the backup. He had a lower body injury over the weekend, but he played on Tuesday. So, Ant, correct me if I'm wrong. If he doesn't start, he has to be made available to the media before the game, correct?
Technically, yes. So if you're going by the agreement between the National Hockey League and the Professional Hockey Writers Association, technically, yes, he would be a guy that should be made available in the Vegas locker room after their morning skate. Now, there are things that the Knights can do to kind of finagle that so that they don't have to make him available. They can make their morning skate an optional skate. And so if it's an optional skate, not all players have to be present. And if they're not present, then they don't have to they don't have to be part of the interviews. They can say he's sick, any number of things that they can do to kind of make it that he's not available. If he is playing the game, he's definitely not available pregame. And then he would only be available postgame in the locker room. And I got to imagine with Vegas wanting to get out of town, they're going to fly out right after the game. A scrum is going to be quick. It's going to be 2-3 minutes. You might sneak in one or two questions that you want to ask about what his experiences, with what he's gone through and about Philadelphia and whatever. But it's going to be more about the game than anything else. So there are ways that they can avoid the media crush that would normally come with this. I'm going to be curious to see. Look, that's one of the reasons I'm taking an early morning flight back because I'm hoping that I can be there for.
Better not be like your flight going down to Florida, or we won't see it till Saturday.
That was in 25 years of travel, and I've had flights canceled on me before. In 25 years of travel, was the worst day of travel I've ever had in my life.
Really,
the worst day. On Bundy, I could have driven from Philadelphia to Orlando faster than what I experienced on Sunday. It was awful. It was awful.
All right. So anyway, as you were saying, they could try to exploit loopholes here. Like if he starts, the most he theoretically could be made available to the media would be post-game, 2 questions, and then shoo everyone away. If he's not starting and they don't cancel the optional skate, then in theory, he should be made available. I guess, all right, whatever. I'm just going to ask. I don't care. I don't know what people want the media to ask, right? Because there's going to be a large segment of the fan base that's going to want the Flyers media to hold Carter Hart's feet to the fire about the court case and about his testimony. And I don't think any of the Flyers media is going to ask anything as it relates to the case. They're going to ask about what it was like for him to not play for, a year and a half or whatever, about, his thoughts about playing in Philadelphia. And I would assume somebody's going to ask him, did you ever consider coming back to Philadelphia? That's about it, right? Is there anything else that people are going to want to hear or going to want to hear?
There have been reports that
because Vegas, nobody's going to care if he says, "Oh, it's been lovely to be embraced." Nobody cares, right?
Yeah.
So,
there have been reports that the Flyers wanted him to come back, and he chose to say he wanted to go elsewhere. So I think that there's a line of questions that you could potentially ask him as to why he didn't want to come back to Philadelphia, why he felt he needed a fresh start. And maybe the answer you get there helps to answer the questions that the people who would want us to grill him about his court case and everything else. Maybe those answers kind of suffice in that regard. Because you're right. I mean, it's so far in the past now, and he's already answered questions out in Vegas. Like, there's no reason to ask those questions in Philadelphia. But I do think it's fair to ask him, why not Philadelphia? Why did he not want to come back to the Flyers? And I think maybe you get some kind of answers there that, but again, I don't know if he's going to be made available. So we'll see.
We've all heard that the Flyers wanted to have him back. So I don't think that there's a way for him to try to say, oh, we never heard from the Flyers. I think that'd be disingenuous, unless he's really going to try to spin a media narrative, which I don't think is going to work. And I said this the other night. I'm actually interested to see who of the media shows up because, like for the Gauthier game, it felt like more media outlets than ever sent people to the game because there was so much to talk about. And I assume that tomorrow there is going to be a pretty large media contingent that are going to be trying to cover the Carter Hart of it all. I expect that there's going to be one or two people per outlet because you're probably going to have one person who writes the game up and then another who's going to probably write the side story about Hart. I would expect that you're going to get a Sealski or a Marcus Hayes down there, right, on Thursday. I can't imagine that they're not going to show up. They wouldn't. I mean, that would be pretty weird. Do you expect it to be a media circus on Thursday night, or do you think that this really doesn't move the needle and so the outlets aren't going to send more than one person?
I think it's more the day. Like you want to send them to the morning skate and see if he's made available. And if he is, then that's your columnists are going to talk to him then. And that's when they'll do the story. If he's not available, they may stick around for the game at night and try and, shape their story around that. And look, even if he's not made available and he plays, they'll stick around, because then they'll write their stories and their columns around and use how he played in the game as part of the conversation and part of the narrative. So, I do think that they should be there. I would be surprised if they're not there. I know the Eagles are a big story in Philly right now. There's a lot of stuff to write columns about the Eagles right now, and that's totally fair. But this would be the only time that Carter Hart comes to Philadelphia this season, and it's the first time he's back. I think it's worthy of columns for sure.
Do you think media circus tomorrow, Bundy?
I do.
What do you think the temperature in the arena is going to be? I think it's actually going to be more positive for him than negative.
Yeah, I do too.
So too.
Yeah, I do too. I'm not going to say they're going to give him a standing ovation, but I don't think they're going to boo him out of the rink either.
And I'm going to ask you the uncomfortable question: are the Flyers going to give him a video?
I doubt it.
I would say no to that. Yeah,
I would think no.
I doubt it. So, And just a real quick, Joe Papel's asking.
We got to go though. We got to roll.
I just want to answer this real fast.
Talk about this tomorrow, the qualifying offer. We can talk about it on Press Row Show tomorrow. We do. We have to go. We have a hard out tonight. So, big thank you to everybody who joined us over on the radio. I saw there was somebody, Colin, who called in. Sorry, Colin, that we didn't get to you. Give us a call next week. Big thank you to everybody who tuned in over on the radio and on YouTube, Facebook, and X. Don't forget, you can always find Snow the Goalie and the Press Row Show in your favorite podcast app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. For Ant down in Florida, who we hope has safe travels. For Bundy, I'm Russ. Thanks for joining us here on Snow the Goalie. Talk to all of you Thursday night.